precious Tuesday tea time. Our different ages, our different ethnicities, our cultural heritage and socioeconomic group and various abilities, our sexual orientation and gender identity, various religious backgrounds, the coming together, the welcoming of each other as we study and practice for the benefit of all beings. And we take this opportunity to look a little more deeply, recognizing the suffering caused by biases and prejudices and systems of power, privilege, and oppression that's based on all of those categories. But we have the aspiration to do no harm and to dismantle barriers that cause separation and suffering. And that can happen in this very moment with this very breath, one breath at a time. This interconnectedness of us with each other and with the liberation of all. Just seeing for ourselves where we separate ourselves even from acknowledging being kind to ourselves or compassionate to ourselves. And taking a few moments to honor the indigenous peoples whose ancestral lands we are seated on. Acknowledging all the indigenous communities of the past and the present and the future, and the gratitude that we have for their contributions and their vibrant presence. Acknowledging that this land, these peoples were forced to leave for our benefit, for the benefit of the colonists and the settlers. And the systems and policies of genocide and relocation and assimilation that still impact many families. May we remain mindful. May we make ongoing efforts to recognize their knowledge, their creativity, and their resilience. And may we ask ourselves, how am I benefiting by living on this land that is the traditional territories of these peoples? Here, the Grand Ronde, the Siletz, the Chinook, the Willamette Tumwater, the Clackamas. All of those that came before, the original makers and artists and healers, standing with them in support of their livelihood, their crafts, and their sacred histories and stories. And as we realize this ancestry that we have, may we also include the ancestry of the Asian immigrants that arrived to the U.S. and our great fortune to know that Buddhists from so many Asian Buddhist countries that settled here have given us the opportunity to learn Sri Lankan, Chinese, Japanese, Korean, Thai, Cambodian, Vietnamese, and the Burmese that brought the Theravadan teachings. And may we hold within our heart space the acknowledgement of the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. The opportunity to be free in this lifetime, free from suffering, free from enmity, free from danger. Through hearing and understanding the teachings of the Buddha. And we have each other in our circle, and we have others from many sanghas before us. Feeling the support of this vessel, of this container of our body as we sit in this place. The container of the honoring of the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. And taking these moments once we find ourselves settled on our chair, feeling what's going on in the body, in the mind. We can use the concentration of the breath to bring us into the present moment. If we want to calm the body, quiet the mind, give it a single object of attention to focus on. We may notice if the breath is long or short, fast or slow, rough or smooth. We may notice how often we veer away from that object of the breath. And with gentleness, we can bring ourselves back to the breath at the nostrils or at the belly, or the touch point where we're feeling buttocks against the cushion or back against the chair or feet on the floor or hands where they are settled. Making friends with whatever comes into the mind without pushing thoughts away. We can just view them as thoughts arising in the mind, the same way that sound comes to the ear and taste comes to the mouth, to the tongue. Smelling comes to the nose. touching comes to whatever points we notice. And thinking happens in the mind. It's not the only thing that happens in the mind, but it is oftentimes the predominant thing that happens in the mind. And so we have all of these sense doors giving us information. Our mind makes the world. We create the world from whatever comes into our senses. And we sit with neutrality, with mindfulness. Mindfulness present to be with what arises. For however long it's there. And then it falls away. Breathing in, it feels like this. Breathing out, it feels like this. Whether we are attending to the single object of the breath or the touch point, or whether we are noticing what comes into any of the sense doors, mindfulness and awareness are present. Seeing clearly the rising, impermanent nature of whatever we attend to, and how quickly, or sometimes not so quickly, it falls away. We can notice pleasant happening. We can notice unpleasant happening. Maybe sometimes we notice confusion. Whether we're verbally oriented or maybe we're more kinesthetically oriented, maybe more visually oriented. Any kind of mental process that arises. Maybe we see things in words in the mind, like an inner dialogue. Or maybe things happen as visions. This whole range of different mental experiences is available for us to notice. And we can return again and again to the breath, or to what might be happening if one of the defilements arises in the mind. There might be tiredness, or there might be agitation, busyness in the mind. We might be grasping at something or pushing something away. We just see these defilements, these hindrances, and usually once we notice them, they change. We have clarity again, waking up in this very moment. surprising sounds. What happens in the mind? Shh, shh. Sound arises into the ears. What do we notice? What happens in the mind? Do we create perceptions? Or can we just let it be sound arriving to the ears? Do we need to arouse just enough energy to be interested? If we're spaced out or can't remember what we're doing or where we are, we just arouse just enough energy to come back to the present moment. Just enough energy to notice what's happening. Is there a sense of pleasantness in the mind or unpleasantness? Is there agitation? What kind of thoughts are in the mind? This is where we notice if they are unskillful or skillful. If they are unskillful thoughts, we may notice them pass away. Sometimes there's even just a noticing of the three characteristics of greed, hatred, and delusion, that maybe one of them is not present in the mind. Maybe it is a mind with non-greed, non-agitation, a mind with clarity, non-confusion. We look for those skillful mind states. All the while keeping the breath or the touch point as the object or the open, spacious awareness for whatever comes in through the senses. And just notice if there are unwholesome or wholesome energies present or not. We may be aware of physical sensations. What is happening in the body? Feeling tone of pleasant or unpleasant, or gentle noting of feeling of density or feeling of spaciousness. We might notice what is happening in the body. We might notice feelings of density or spaciousness, heaviness or lightness. What is the attitude of our mind? Is there greed? Is there wanting? Is there aversion? Not wanting? Or delusion of not knowing? And sometimes there might be absence of these states. It's more rare for us to become familiar with skillful states of mind. Sometimes you can't even see them or don't recognize them. If we have a heart and mind free from greed and free from hatred and free from delusion, skillful qualities like kindness and compassion, joy and equanimity can take their place. And so we're using this skillful way of attending to what's happening in the body, what's happening in the mind. So we don't as easily get caught in identifying with and taking our thoughts so seriously. And when we incline these thoughts toward goodwill, toward holding ourselves in kindness, we can start to undo some of the contradictory habits of attaching ourselves to our thoughts so seriously. May we hold ourselves in kindness and compassion. By simply letting our thoughts come and go, we can change our relationship to them without identifying with them and without holding on to them. And we can let this spaciousness of the container of our being, include ourselves kindly, include wishing ourselves to be at ease. May I hold myself in kindness, in compassion. May I be at ease. and letting these thoughts of goodwill and kindness flow to another person. Seeing them in our mind's eye, holding them in our hearts, maybe noticing their energies within us, wishing them to be at ease, free from inner and outer harm. Letting these thoughts of kindness flow to another friend or a benefactor, a teacher. It could be an animal, a child, a teacher. Seeing this being happy, healthy, having ease in their lives, holding them in our hearts, whatever that feels like to you. Whether you create thoughts or see an image or have auditory hearing of something, letting these thoughts of the benefactor fill our heart space, wishing them to have ease, and as we let these skillful qualities of kindness and compassion develop in our hearts, may we include other people that we don't know. Neighbors, people we've seen out on the street recently, maybe the mail person, or the garbage truck people. Someone you see in the grocery store or on your daily walk. Letting this being be held in your heart, be held in kindness, be held in compassion. May we expand this kindness to include others. Just as I wish to be happy, I know that all beings wish to be happy. May we envision those in pain and sorrow, those in joy, those in sickness and those in health, those enlightened and those unenlightened, those seen and unseen beings. May all beings everywhere know happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be free from harm, safe and protected. those that swim and crawl, fly, walk, swim. May all beings everywhere be free from enmity and danger. Anicca vata sankhara uparawa yadomino upakitawa merchanti te samvapasamo sukho. All conditioned things are subject to impermanence. They arise and pass away due to conditions. And seeing this clearly with mindfulness brings the greatest happiness, which is peace. Thank you for your practice. May it be of benefit to you and all beings. May you know that the goodness that arises from the practice is beneficial to you and to everyone. Thank you for taking this time.